Hey guys, it's me Guilho, and today I've come in here with a Sword Fiora guide. So, the guide will be a bit long, so I'll have timestamps so you can skip to the part that you want. I'll include matchups, builds, upgrades, everything you might want to know about Sword Fiora. I've been playing Sword Fiora for a very long time as well, ever since it got the first buff, so even when this sword was 0.05 negative movement speed debuff. I was already playing this build, and yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. So this is the route I usually run. I pretty much always run this route actually. I don't like the Iron Glide routes. I usually just go for this one. Even if this one is contested, I still go for it. It's very solid, and if you're fast enough, you should not have too many problems, even if the route is contested. So, when you loot, first you want to loot cemetery as fast as you can, and as long as you have your iron ore, you can leave. But it's okay to search one or two extra boxes if they're close by to look for chains. All the other items are secondary. It's okay. It's better if you get them all, but you should not waste time looking for them. If you should not waste too many time walking around looking for them. If you can just leave, you just leave. Loot walking towards the exit, of course. So for hospital, as soon as you enter hospital, you have two options. You go left or right. I usually go right when there are people spawning in hospital, as they usually tend to go towards the main building, as the main building has extra loot. But if if no one spawned in hospital, and I don't think anyone came from cemetery to hospital, I will take the left path as it is faster and has more loot available to you. So so when looting hospital, you should also look out for alcohol, as you can combine it with coffee from cemetery to make mocha bread. There's also coffee in docks if you don't find coffee in cemetery. One more thing, in order to see if you are going well in terms of timer and how fast you're going, when teleporting out you should check your timer, and if your timer is more than a minute, you're doing well. If your timer is less than a minute and you don't even have the mocha bread yet, you're doing bad time-wise, and you either got very unlucky or you should try to loot faster next time. So, okay, docks. I forgot to talk about docks. So in docks, you should always be ready to press tab and see what your opponents have, because depending on how fast you are and how fast the roses are, you might find either blue weapon roses, gray weapon roses that you can pressure, or purple weapon roses that you need to run away. Yukis are also a hard matchup in docks. They run the exact same build as you, and since Yuki counters Fiora, it's not a very nice fight to have, but if you have superior items, you should be able to win. So now let's go over the abilities. So the abilities. Passive. When you auto attack, a stack appears under your enemy, and when you hit Q or E, and your opponent is max stacks, it pops the stacks, so you can put more stacks on them, and you get some cooldown back on your W. Q. Your Q is sort of a skill shot that hits the enemies and slowing them. If the enemies have full stacks of your passive, that the amount of number of stacks will depend on how many points you have in your passive. So, but when your opponent have max stacks on your passive, it will slow them and deal some extra damage. W is pretty much two auto attacks in one. They are not actual auto attacks, but they can create a new lifesteal off them, so they count as auto attacks. Your E is a dash that if you hit the dash, you receive another dash. And at last, your ultimate. Your ultimate is an auto attack buff, and for each auto attack you do, you deal extra damage, and it also consumes your SP. One thing to remind here is that it scales off flat amp. So flat amp items and accessories are good on Fiora because of this R ability. For your weapon skill, it's parry. It blocks all the damage incoming, and you also dash forward a little bit, reflecting all the damage you took. Item upgrades. So for item upgrades, in terms of sword, Ironglide, Hovud, Leviathan, and Dancelef, and Monotinsao are all options that I would consider. Ironglide and Monotinsao are only options that I would take off dead bodies. I will never craft them myself. Hovud, I will craft in docks if I get the ruby from the bears, but I would also craft it. I would usually also save glass pieces, walk around with them in case I get a ruby from animals elsewhere. Same thing with Leviathan. I usually don't take the Tree of Lives fight in forest. I rather wait for an animal to drop me Powder of Life or get it from cemetery if I don't have my Hovud by that time. I will sometimes consider building Katana as well. But for this, you need VB blood sample, and since VB blood sample can also be used for your red shoes, that are also nice upgrades, I don't go for this option as much. Chest. So you start with a very good chest piece, optical camouflage suit, and I would not swap it for anything. You can maybe consider swapping it for mithril armor, as it gives a lot of armor, but since your optical camo suit gives you 10% skill damage reduction, and of course the extra crit chance, I don't think I would consider swapping it. For your headpiece, you go for Crystal Tiara, but the Chinese Opera Mask is always a thing to consider, as well as the Mithril Helm. I usually only go for the Mithril Helm if I have a lot of other good SP drinks, as the Mithril Helm does not give any extra max SP, unlike the other two options, and so you might end up on running out of SP during a fight if you don't have good drinks. Arm. So you start with Creed. Creed is honestly the best item if you stick to crit, but if you do choose to not stick to crit, swapping for something else is always better. Swapping for Mithril Shield, Sword of Sajaha, Radar, Auto Arms, everything, these are all good options. Even Sword Swapper is a good option. Creed is really only an item that you want to stick to if you are going to stick with Creed. 40% chance, I think it's the break point. I would start considering swapping Creed if you have a 40% crit chance. If you only have 40% crit chance. Leg. So for legs, you start with Cephalus, it's a very good shoes, and I would consider either Boots of Hermes or Red Shoes as upgrades. For accessory, you start with the Laced Quiver. Laced Quiver is very good in a lot of matchups because of the movement speed, but you can't count on movement speed to win all the matchups. Yes, for some matchups the movement speed will be better, like Zahir. If you choose to swap it out, you'll be having a much harder time against Zahir, as Zahir base movement speed will be faster than yours usually. But in terms of upgrades, I usually go for Moonlight Pendant. It's easy to make. All you need is a good RNG drop from an animal. Uchiwa is, in my opinion, the best possible option. And this new item is also a good thing to consider. You can grab a kitchen knife in docks, ribbon in uptown, and then Walter in beach. I don't know how good it is, as it is a new item and I have not experienced enough with it, but I would still say that Uchiwa and Moonlight Pendant are better matchups. So against Estella, Estella is honestly a character that you just want to avoid. You don't want to fight her, but if you're forced to fight her, let's say it's a 1v1 final zone, you should be able to dodge the V, or first E, and then you can use the parry on her W or on another E after her W is on cooldown. The problem of parrying the first E while her W being up is that by the time her W is over, after you engage on her, she will have her E up and you'll be facing a very bad spot and you'll probably die. So you should just considering pairing either W so you don't get pushed back, or considering pairing the E after the W is down. For Jackie, well, Jackie all-in is much better than yours. It's much better than yours, and what, can I please get this?
Is it time for hide and
So
seek?
Jackie all-in is just much better than yours, and so you'll need to kite her back. So what you'll be doing is auto W, queuing, then proccing the passive, so you slow her, you walk back, She keeps coming. You do the exact same over and over again until you can kill her, you can all-in her, or until she runs away. Emma. Emma is another character that you should avoid fighting with, as Emma is very, very powerful into melees. Usually, if you parry the polymorph, you will be in a very good spot, but parrying the polymorph is hard and it's usually only doable on prediction. Being able to dodge her skills is actually crucial in order to be able to kill her, as if you do not dodge her skills before closing in the gap, you'll be already very chunked out and you should not continue the fight. Just disengage at that point. Italian is sort of a tricky matchup. If you use your W in her drink, you'll auto lose the fight. You should never just waste your W. She can silence into ult you, stopping you from casting any abilities. Since your W is an ability and it's your major source of damage, it can lead you to very bad results on your part. So yeah, it's just a hard matchup, but you should be able to kill her as you scale harder. Sword scales very well, and yeah. You can also try to parry her Qs. For example, if she's playing AMP, she will just spam her Qs instead of weaving autos in. So if you think she will start pressing the Q, or after she presses the first Q, you can just press parry and dodge the rest of the damage. ISO. Against ISO, you're forced to parry his bomb. And having cameras. If you don't have cameras, you should just avoid fighting. Rosie. Rosie is a very hard matchup. You should also avoid this matchup. And in order to win this matchup, you need to parry the ultimate, the Rosie's ultimate, which of course also includes you also end up on parrying a couple of autos, and parrying the second ECC. Parrying the second ECC is actually easier, but in my opinion, parrying the ult is better, as you can dodge up to 500 damage or more, depending on if she's going crit. Yuki. Yuki counters Fiora because his E disarms and you can't auto attack. And if he is running the Iron Glide 2-hand Yuki with Dobok, you should just run away as he outranges you and can keep you at his range instead of your range. So you can never actually hit him and will be always poking you and running back, poking and running back, and you can't win the fight. Hygiene. Hygiene is also a very hard matchup. You should also avoid this matchup, but in order to win, you should be able to parry her fear, so you can close in. Nadine is not a hard matchup, but if she has a lot of stacks, of course, it becomes very hard, as she will start hurting a lot. And if she is running crossbow, you need to parry the crossbow, so you don't get CC'd into a wall. You can also bait the crossbow, get yourself into a wall, so she thinks she's safe. She walks too forward, and then just parry the crossbow skill, and she's now in a bad position because she greeted for the crossbow skill. Zahir is a very hard matchup, especially if you don't have the quiver, as he's too fast, and since he's faster than you can't really auto attack him. So it's very hard, and you probably need him to misplay or parry his tornado. Even if you parry his tornado, you don't guarantee a win. Sometimes I parry tornado and I still die. So just avoid fighting Zahir. Sylvia. Sylvia is a very hard character to play, but she does not have a great matchup into Fiora. Honestly, if you just parry the Sylvia bike, as they will usually charge in with E and then instantly press Q, if you just parry that, you'll usually be fine and be able to kill her. Luke, you should parry his R. Shokai, after Shokai presses Q, they will usually, if they hit the Q, they will usually just press E. So you can just parry the E and you get a free matchup as he doesn't CC you. With Aya, you need to parry the R CC. It can be tricky, especially if she instantly autocasts it. But if she does not autocast it, you usually get a free parry on the ult. Magnus. Magnus can be hard, especially if he's playing full amp. If he's not playing full amp, he's honestly just easy. But if he's playing full amp and he's running hammer, after he presses the hammer skill, he will usually ultimate, as that it's the optimal way of doing damage with the ult. So we should be looking for that and parry it. Although the matchups are generally not too hard, so I did not talk about them. And yeah, that's all that I have to say. Hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for watching.